Let's talk about the workflow that we're going to be following as we build this course project. It's a very common, very popular business intelligence workflow, and it's going to take us through all of the core components of Power BI. So we're going to start by extracting and transforming our raw data inside of the Power Query editor. Just like Excel, this is going to open up in a separate window. It's where we're going to conduct all of our ETL steps to clean and transform and prep our data for analysis and visualization. And once we've done those steps, we're going to load it into what we call Power BI's front end. And within that front end, there are three core views: the model view, the data view, and the report view. So collectively, that's what we typically call the front end, whereas the Power Query editor is what we'll often refer to as the back end. And this is something that Aaron's going to dig into in a bit more depth in the next section of the course. So if we take it one layer deeper, let's look at the 4 stages of the workflow that we're going to follow here. Again, starting with the Power Query editor, this is where data is loaded and transformed. 2 is where we configure and build our data models. We do this inside of Power BI's model view. 3 is where table features and calculations can be added inside Power BI's data view. And then finally, step 4, that's where we bring our data to life and create visuals and reports in the report view. Now, there are a ton of menus and ribbons and tools and tabs here. Don't worry about that right now. We're going to dig into all of those features and functions later in the course. But for now, what I want to do is jump into the Power BI environment with a fully built model open so we can take a quick 10,000-foot view of the BI workflow and interface. All right, so here we are inside of Power BI. As you can see, we've got our VentureWorks report pulled up here. And right now, we're inside of what we're calling the front end, right? We've got our report view, which we're looking at now. Got our data view and our model view as well, which I'll talk about in a second. But if we're following the same flow that we just talked about, typically we're going to begin inside of the query editor. And to get there, we can either create a new data connection or query from the Get Data menu, or we can head to Transform Data to open up the query editor. So note that this opens up in a separate window, completely separate from the Power BI app, just like it does in Excel. And this is where all of those ETL steps take place. It's essentially where we're taking our raw data and preparing it for further analysis inside of Power BI. So once we've done our data prep, we're going to close and apply. That data is going to load into the Power BI front end, and here we are. So remember, step 2 is about creating our data model, which we can access here. This is where we actually define those table relationships. We can view each table as an independent object, and we can design our relational model for analysis. Next, we've got our data view here. This is the one place that we can actually see the details of our tables in rows and columns, just like Excel. And one thing to call out here is that Power BI has contextual menus. It has a contextual ribbon, just like Excel. And what that means is that based on what you're selecting, you'll see different menu options. So right now I have a table selected, product lookup. So I see a table tools menu here. If I select a specific column, I see column tools. If I select a specific measure, I'll see measure tools, and so on and so forth. Now, the last view we talked about was the report view. And of course, this is where we're going to add all of our charts and graphs and visuals to create custom reports and interactive dashboards. One thing that's pretty cool is that just like Excel, we've got these tabs here to break out different views of a report that we can navigate just like we're inside of an Excel workbook. So there you have it. Hopefully that's a helpful, high-level overview of the Power BI workflow and user interface.